Hi everyone. The lesson is log handling using NSLog, a lesson in Objective-C. Let's dig into detail and see what's in this lesson. We'll be using Xcode version 11.4.1 for practicals and Apple developer docs and API referencing. Okay. Prerequisite. You need to have some knowledge in basics of programming. Also look at the previous lesson in this lesson series called Simple Output. In this lesson, you will be learning about log handling using NSLog, and it will be practical demonstrations as usual. So let's go and see what's inside the lesson. So let's start Xcode, and so make sure you click create a new Xcode project. And if by default, if it has selected iOS and single view apps, you have to make sure for this lesson you have to select Mac OS command line tool. So we'll be doing a little bit of Mac OS command line tool programs, and then we'll be moving to iOS single view. But for now, it's Mac OS command line tool. Click next. So make sure the language is Objective-C and give a meaningful name as your project name. Click next and select a location where you want to save the project. And now click create. So it will create the project, and as usual you will get the settings screen first. Then in the project navigator section over here, you will see your project and you will see the file as main.m. So when you click on that, you will see this is your source code, which has comments and some import statements and the main method, and auto release pool. We'll talk about that later. It's coming under memory management. Inside that, you will be writing your code here. Now, as you can see, when you create a project, by default, there's an NSLog line, and the lesson what we are going to discuss is also log handling using NSLog. So what is NSLog? NSLog is a built-in command found in the Apple Developer API. So what does this command do? So let's have a look at this. So let's look at the Apple Developer API as a reference for this. So if I Google search for NSLog, you'll get NSLog Apple Developer Documentation. So if you Google search and click on this, it will take you to this. So what is this? This is very important. For you to understand the use of this, we have a separate lesson explaining the developer docs and the API, right? Now, it's very important. If you want to become an industry level developer, you should be able to refer the Apple Developer API, right? Like I'm doing now, right? Like we are doing now. So you will see now NSLog is case sensitive. It's kept, for example, now I'm explaining based on the API. This is API. API stands for Application Programmer Interface. And make sure the language is Objective-C, because you got Swift language as well, right? And if you're interested about developing mobile application using Swift, have a look at the other lecture series on Swift, right? The other video lectures on Swift, you can find the details in the description section. So Objective-C, so it's a function. So you are calling this function NSLog. What does it do? It says logs an error message to the Apple system log facility, and it says the function is not returning anything, so that's why it's void. And function has a parameter where you pass a string. So the NS string means it's a string, right? So keep that in mind. It's a string. So now you know NSLog is a function, and you know it's found in the API, right? It's found in the API. And also if you look here, you can see, okay, it says it's NSLog coming under errors and exception, coming under foundation, coming under documentation. So if you open this documentation, right click and open, you will see it has the developer documentation, right, for various stuff, which we will be referring in future, right? For many aspects, for example, ARKit, audio toolbox, likewise, right? And then under documentation, it's coming, NSLog is coming under foundations. If you right click and open the foundation, you can see foundation is a framework, right? So that means this NSLog command comes under the foundation framework, right? So in Apple, in this API, when it comes to Apple developer APIs, Mac OS and iOS, the functions and the classes are categorized under frameworks. In other words, the functions and the classes, they will come under frameworks. So NSLog comes under foundation framework. That is what it says here when you look at the API. So when you look at the API, you can find a lot of information. For example, now you know function NSLog comes under the foundation framework, right? So there are lots of different frameworks, and all the information about frameworks can be found in the documentation, right? So what are the different frameworks, and for different stuff there are different frameworks, right? So there are a large number of frameworks which is dedicated for different tasks, right? And we'll be seeing one by one when we do the practicals, right? So this gives you a very clear idea that, and also it says this NSLog is available on these versions, right? So it talks about that, and it clearly says that the NSLog belongs to the framework, foundation framework, as I said earlier, right? So this is a very important thing for you to understand. So now you know NSLogs is in this format. So now you can go and use it in your app, right? So that is why in the NSLog here it prints a string over here, because it's accepting a string. But it's in iOS development and Mac OS, the string data type is known as NS string, right? So it's NS string. So but it means it's a string. So there's a rule when it comes to literals such as NS strings, you have to put at symbol in front. Otherwise, you will get a compile error. So if I remove this at symbol, you can see that you will get a compile error, right? So it's very important for you to keep that in mind, that when you use this NS string literals, and there are a few other literals like that, right? You have to see it says string literal must prefix with at symbol. So when you click this, it will ask you to insert that, and you can click the fix and it will again put it back there. So this is important for you to keep in mind. And one reason for simple reason for this is, when you don't put this, it's a standard string. Now Objective C language is derived from C language. So Objective C would like to distinguish data types between coming from C and Objective C. So when you keep it like this, it's like a data type coming from a C language, right? Inherited, meaning it's coming. But for an Objective C strings, it should proceed with at symbol. So from now onwards, every time I put a string in Objective C commands, I will have to put a at symbol in front, right? So let's run this. What it does is, as the API said, now let's run this first, then you will see. Let's run this. So okay, it says hello world, right? So but it's not just a normal output, it's a log. So when I say a log, as you saw in the API as well, it said it logs and logs into the Apple system log. So NSLog gives, it's like for debugging purpose. It's like for a programmer or admin to have a log, right? So it says, for example, when you say NSLog, it will tell you the date and the time, for example, and it will say the project name, right, and some other information, and then only it prints the message. So this we call as log handling, and NSLog is one way of one mechanism to handle logs. So if you don't want this to happen this way, you can do it using the other command which we did in the previous lesson, which is printf, right? So if it's up to you, if you want, you can use printf and get it done. If not, if you want, you can use NSLog for logging purpose, right? Awesome. So then if I want another one, I can say, okay, NSLog. So it's for log handling, and then as usual, if I just put a string, you know I will get error. Let's say hello world. You will say, okay, starting, for example, right? But now you know you will get an error, right? So because it's compulsory. So either you can click this and fix, or you can just go and put it over here. Now let's run this. So now I should see two log messages, right? As you can see, hello world and starting, right? Awesome, right? So that's wonderful, right? And let's see what's next. So we completed the practical demonstration for this lesson. Conclusion, you learn about log handling using NSLog, right? And we referred Apple developer docs and the API, which is a very important part. And if you want to become an excellent mobile application developer, you have to do a lot. You have to refer a lot of Apple developer docs and API. And in this lecture series, we will be doing that a lot so that you will be comfortable, right? You have what's next? Have a look at our other videos for practicals on Objective-C, right? And we are very excited to see you in the next lesson, and see you in the next lesson.